What is up, everybody?
Hey, what's happening?
Been a while, but here we are again with another live stream for BJ Insurance. Today we got Greg.
The lady with the guitar still bugs me out.
Well, that's because she can play guitar, Joe. Whereas that
Unlike you
back there, we still haven't heard you jump on there.
I was just jamming to a progressive version of Tom Sawyer, and
some porcupine tree or something.
Yeah,
that's about as much
as Neil Peart.
Neil Peart.
It hasn't been out in a month or 3 or 10
or 10 years, maybe.
Oh.
All right. So, welcome everybody. If you're here, Greg and Joe are going to give us some updates on the world of Medicare, health insurance, things like that. If you look at the comment box on Facebook or YouTube, if you have a question, you can type it right in there and we'll see it and we can answer your questions, live. So regardless of whether it's necessarily on topic, if you want to ask the guys a question while they're here, no problem with that. You can enter it right in the box and we'll jump on it. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg. I think he's got a few things he wants to talk about. And then Joe, you can chime in as needed.
All right. So one of the points of doing this today, and we haven't done one in a few weeks, and I wanted to make sure we reached out to everybody. But the little-known Medicare Advantage enrollment period is ending, so we're not going to touch on that really at all because you only have 1 day of it left, and nobody really knows much about it. Which maybe that's our fault. We could have gone into a little further, but since it's ending, we're officially entering something called lock-in period. And lock-in period means what you've got now, except under special circumstances, is what you're going to have till the end of the year. For some folks, they made changes last year. Some folks didn't make changes, were happy with what they had, didn't know they could change, wanted to change, didn't do it. All that said, you're in your plan now, and you're probably not moving on unless you get a special circumstance or till we get to the end of the year. One of the things I wanted to bring up, though, is now there's something to consider with your plan. For some folks, plans got a little bit cheaper. Some went down to $0 premiums, which is really nice with the Medicare Advantage side. But I think as most people have seen or understand, the biggest cost when you have a Medicare Advantage plan is hospitalization. If you haven't looked at your summary of benefits, if you don't remember the explanation that your agent gave you, flip that book open or just listen here. And I can tell you, if you went to the hospital with your Medicare Advantage plan, that's your PPOs and HMOs, you're going to have a copay, and it can be large. Some of the better plans might make it a $225 a day copay. Some plans might make it $350 a day. Some plans make it $750 per stay after a deductible. So if you don't know what your plan covers you for in the hospital, don't be afraid to reach out to your agent. If you don't remember your agent's name or something like that, just reach out to us. If you're not a customer of BGA, just reach out anyway, and we can review that summary with you. More importantly, though, is how do you cover that up? You say, hey, well, that's great. I'm paying $0 a month. If I go to the hospital, I don't want to be thinking about a $1,000 bill when I get home because I went to the hospital. That's the last thing you should be thinking about. You should be thinking about how am I getting better, not how bad's the bill going to be when I get back. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a plan that is becoming more popular. More companies are offering it, called hospital indemnity. And it's just like it sounds. It indemnifies you if you go in the hospital. So the reason we talk a lot about Medicare Advantage with this is for those who have Medicare supplements, you pay a higher premium per month, but you don't have a cost when you go to the hospital. With the Medicare Advantage plans, you go, this is great. I have a plan that costs $0 a month, but if I go in the hospital, I've got a $250 a day copay for 5 or 7 or 10 days, whatever it may be. Or again, sometimes it's more than that. Well, what can you do to cover that? So I'm going to share my screen in a minute to show you one of the companies we work with and one of the plans we can build to work with your plan. So it's separate. It's not like it's not like saying, okay, well, I have Aetna for my HMO or my PPO. Do I have to get this from Aetna, or is this something I have to do during enrollment period? This is a completely separate policy, and I'll go over with you a little bit about how this works. Essentially, it's just added insurance. You will pay a monthly premium, and you'll add on insurance to make up for the hospital deductible or copay. So let's talk about a little bit of how this works. If you're looking at my screen, you can see here we're checked off. It says hospital indemnity. This so happens to be from Cigna Health Insurance. And again, you don't have to have a Cigna policy to get this. This is completely separate. And the way they build this is to build around somebody's plan. So if you look on the right-hand side here, we just put in a date of birth of 1/1/1956. That makes this person 65 years old. I chose male because I'm male, and this is for somebody in New Jersey. Now, they have these plans in pretty much every single state. I chose New Jersey because that's where I happen to be sitting right now. These plans can be done for an individual. They can be done to work with a spouse or somebody, domestic partner. It can be a family plan if you have children living in the home. Again, a lot of our clients, that's not usually the case, but if let's just use it for an individual right now. And in New Jersey, you have two options. One option is Senior Choice 1. The second option is Senior Choice 2. And the big difference between those options are, how do you cover up the hospital copay? So let's look at Senior Choice option number 1. A per day confinement amount. So I said some plans are $200, maybe $250 a day. Let's say under this plan, you go, okay, let's choose $225 per day. And this will cover you for 6 days. So what does this mean? This means that you'll pay a premium of $22.94 a month. And when you go in the hospital, after you go home, you'll get a bill because you had a copay with your insurance. But with this plan, if you're in the hospital for 2 days, you're going to get 2 times $225, $450. If you're there for all 6 days, you're going to get 6 times $225 or 12, what's that, $1,350. So it will pay without question if you were in the hospital. Doesn't matter what your insurance costs. So if you're in the hospital for 3 days, they're going to pay you $675. No matter what your insurance covers, no matter what your copay is. So, and you can play with this any which way you want. So for example, they'll do it for 10 days. So let's say you go to the hospital and you're there for 10 days. This plan is going to pay $2,250 to you for the 10-day period. Your insurance may only ask for copays up to 6 days, but this plan is going to keep paying you. So it's not like anybody's trying to make money when they go to the hospital, but this helps because they're trying to pay off your copay. It could also give you some additional money. Maybe you need transportation, something like that. But it's going to help, and it's money. And they don't dictate how you spend the money. They're just going to give you the money. You have a hospital stay, they give you the money. You can use it to pay the copay. You can use it to go on a trip. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying you could. But they don't dictate how you spend it. So if they end up paying you more than your copays are, that money is however you need to use it. Maybe it's meds that you need after the hospital stay, something like that. So that's choice 1. There's choice 2. And it's a little different, and we'll click on that so we can play with this a little bit. They'll give you a per day amount. So let's just say we chose $150 per day. They'll do it for 6 or 10 days. And then they'll also give you money per admission. So for those of you who have like a per admission amount of maybe $700 or $500 or $1,000, the way this works out is for $31.46 a month, when you enter the hospital, they will give you $500 immediately, and then $150 per day for up to 6 days. So again, you might only be there for a day or two, and this could become more money than what you actually owe, but nobody's going to tell you how to spend this money. You can pay the copays, you can use it for other items. No one's going to tell you what you have to do with it. And again, this is for New Jersey, and so New Jersey is a little bit more limited. In Pennsylvania, there's even more options. I mean, there's options you can add to this that can help pay for an ambulance, can help pay for outpatient, can help even pay for observation, because sometimes they'll hold you in the hospital simply for observation, which this would not pay for, but you also wouldn't have the big hospital copay if you're just under observation. So this is a small example. And the reason, like I said, now's a good time to look at this is you may have changed your plan, you may not have, but what we did notice from 2020 into 2021, a lot of clients went from $30 a month down to $0. Some clients went from, say, $100 a month down to $30 or $40, depending on what their plans were. But for the most part, a lot of folks we've talked to, a lot of our own customers have saved money in premium this year. And truth be told, not saying you want to give up those savings, but now is your chance to really complete your health coverage. Make sure that the big bill that comes after you go to the hospital is covered. And you don't have to be so concerned when you're in the hospital going, oh, how long are they going to keep me here? How much more do I have to really pay? Instead, you can go, hey, I don't want to stay in the hospital, but keep me here till I'm feeling better. And this is paid for. I don't have to worry about it. It's just taking away that worry. And truth be told, unfortunately, as we age, there's a better chance we may have a hospital stay. It's just a fact of life. And hopefully nobody ever does, but that's just not realistic. So we want to prepare for it and be ready for it. So that's why I bring this up and why I think this is such an excellent addition to your healthcare coverage. And it's totally separate. If you want to buy it now, you want to buy it a month from now, you don't need to wait for an enrollment period. The only difference is there are some health questions for this. I won't bring up an application right now, but you can imagine, because they are separate insurance, this is not a Medicare-backed product, they want to make sure, that you can pass a certain health screening. Now, it's not too difficult. So unless you have some major conditions currently ongoing, many of you would probably qualify. It's based on seniors, so obviously they know things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol is not going to preclude you. But if you had a hospital stay last month, they're going to say you need to wait a little while before you can get the plan. But again, don't think for 1 minute, I have some health, I'm diabetic, and I have high blood pressure. That's not going to preclude you. These questions are a little bit easier than a lot of the ones you might have experienced when it comes to Medicare supplements or, life insurance, something like that. So something worth looking at. It doesn't cost you anything to look at this. In fact, it costs you nothing to shop around, costs you nothing to apply. The only time it costs you something is if you decide, hey, I applied, I was accepted, I wanted to go into force, and then you can decide if you want to get it or not. It also, there's no disenrollment period. So it's not like, if a year goes by and you go, well, I don't think I need this anymore, you're free to stop paying it and just give it up. I don't recommend it, but you are. So a lot of freedom, a lot of options, because it's not a Medicare plan. It's to help supplement your Medicare coverage.
So does this have a spousal discount, Greg?
So not a spousal discount, but if you add a spouse, I don't know if it gives you maybe a little bit less cost. Let's see. We'll play with it. No, unfortunately, it just kind of doubles it. So you don't get much for a spouse. I will tell you this, there's not a male-female price on this, where I know Medicare supplements are, but age does play a factor. So if it's an individual and spouse, they're going to take the higher age to price this. So sometimes we got to get creative where if, husband's 72, wife's 67, the wife might want to get her own policy and the husband can add one later, or vice versa, right? Because you don't want to both be priced as the husband's age, because that's just going to cost you a little bit more money.
Right. Okay. Joe, anything you want to jump in here and add?
Greg pretty much said it all. Basically, it's a great plan. I've sold a lot of these indemnity plans, but mainly for another reason, and that was for the cancer portion. There's a cancer portion to some of these plans, not all of them, but Aetna has one where they have a hospital indemnity plan, also has a cancer portion if you come down with, and covers mostly any forms of internal cancer, excluding melanoma, because melanoma they consider kind of like you're out in the sun not taking care of yourself.
Right.
Cancer to get. But the bottom line is I've had many clients who've taken advantage of Medicare Advantage plans at zero premium a month. And I explain to them, and I go into detail, listen, and we've covered this before on a couple of these YouTube live sessions, but when you're talking about Part B specialty drugs, they're not your normal prescriptions that you pick up at CVS or you get mail order. Those are drugs that are typically administered in a hospital setting or a doctor's office setting. And basically, any cancer treatments like chemo or radiation therapy falls under Part B medical drugs. And what that is you pay 20% out of pocket if you're on any Medicare Advantage plan. So your Medicare Advantage plan, if you, let's say for God's sakes, you need, chemotherapy, they're going to cover 80%, but you're going to pay the other 20% out of pocket. Well, 20% doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it is a lot when it comes to cancer treatments. And I've seen a lot of people suffer out of pocket expenses for that. Yeah. And, you could, again, like Greg mentioned before about the hospital indemnity portion, you can pick and choose your benefit. I mean, I've gotten people $5,000 benefits for as little as $18, $15 a month, depending on their age. And that's a pretty good benefit, consider what you're paying. And God forbids, they say 1 in 4 of us get cancer and need that kind of treatment. And, I say, when you take advantage of a zero premium month plan, take advantage of this kind of indemnity plan, because I've had a lot of clients over the years who said, I'm not interested in something like that right now. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call and say, hey, listen, I got some issues. I had a biopsy and I could really use a plan that covers this form or that form of cancer. And unfortunately, they're not going to qualify because, again, of the health questions. Now, the health questions, they're not that extensive, like Greg said, but there's a few of them, and you do have to pass the guidelines. I just had a guy who's a good client of mine, 70 years old. You would think he's 60 years old with the things that he does. He's an avid scuba diver. He wanted to get one of these plans because he had to get treatments on his back, a hospital indemnity, went into the hospital. And he said, I want to basically guard myself against this type of thing. So he had extensive treatment on his back, healthy otherwise. But, he couldn't get this plan because he had a couple of issues while he was in the hospital. And he was healthy 100% before this and didn't take advantage of it. So when you're healthy and this is presented to you, it's something that you definitely want to take advantage because you might not qualify in the future. So I like to bring that up because I've had those cases. And there's nothing worse than telling a client that you've been in contact with for years and they're your client that they can't get this kind of plan now because they didn't take advantage of it when you first presented it. So we've blogs about it. We've emailed clients about this type of stuff. And, it's something that you should take advantage of when the opportunity is in front of you. So it's something I wanted to bring up as far as the cancer portion of this policy.
Yeah,
yes.
Real quick to Joe's point, and I bring this up, in Pennsylvania, you can add cancer to your hospital indemnity. In New Jersey, you can't. So I scroll down my page here and just, if we're still sharing my screen,
Yep.
If you're in New Jersey, again, it's separate. You can actually buy a separate cancer policy. So in this same example, I used the 65-year-old male. This is a $10,000 benefit that's only going to cost you $30 a month. Now, what does that mean? That means if you're diagnosed by a medical professional with cancer and you have this policy, no questions asked. They're going to hand you a check for $10,000 for you to spend on whatever you need. So that's copays, that's deductibles, that's this 20% Joe mentioned about how much they cost you for things like chemotherapy and stuff like that. A $10,000 check, especially when most of your Medicare Advantage policies have a max out of pocket of $7,250 or $7,500, that more than covers it. So now you can say, hey, no matter what happens with cancer or something like that, I'm in the clear. I've got it covered for $30 a month. I don't have to worry about that anymore. If you're in Pennsylvania, it's not a separate policy. You actually can add it on to your hospital indemnity, so you can kind of put it all together. And again, there's smaller amounts. If you did $5,000, look, the policy's $15 a month. $15 a month, and if you're diagnosed with cancer, they're going to hand you a $5,000 check to say, hey, go take care of whatever you need. This particular one, they'll add a heart and stroke rider. What that means is if you have a heart attack or a stroke for $1,550, they'll add another $5,000 there to say, hey, here's the three major things that happen to people: stroke, heart attack, cancer, the three big ones that come. So here you go. We're going to help you pay for that. And again, we're going to do it for a really small amount. When you think about it, $15 a month, $15.50 a month. That's not, look, everybody has their budget. But when we look around, what costs $15, I can't get out of Wawa without $15.
Yeah, I was going to say 15. That seems like a no-brainer.
Well, and the plan also in Pennsylvania, you could choose, and I don't recommend it, obviously, but you could just choose the cancer portion without the hospital. You could choose one or the other or both. So that's you do have an option, especially on the Aetna policy. The other thing is it has an ambulance rider on it also. How many seniors take ambulances in their later years? Maybe, I know my dad had suffered greatly, towards the end of his life and took multiple ambulance rides. And, he had a Medicare supplement, so, he was covered. But on these Medicare Advantage plans, it can cost you $200 to $300 per ride. And that can get expensive. So that has a, ambulance rider benefit on it also. That's very, very inexpensive.
So I had a question about so I see on the screen here, I was going to ask about it anyways, the accident treatment. Joe was talking about somebody who has like dangerous, tendencies. Like let's say you go scuba diving and you're diving deep, right? Or, what's the difference between that and let's say something, God forbid, you get into a car accident? Is there any difference between, the type of accident coverage or hospital stay, or like, does however you got to the hospital based on whatever happened, does it matter at all?
No, I mean, if you're hospitalized,
that's it. Yeah.
You're in the hospital. It depends. I mean, if you're heart attack, if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan and you are hospitalized for any particular accident, mainly you are covered under the hospital. You are covered under the hospital indemnity plan because you are hospitalized.
Right.
But then there's certain other criteria that heart attack, stroke, and those type of things. If you're covered also.
So I'm looking. I can't bring up the accident treatment because again, I don't think it's available in New Jersey. We'd have to switch states, which I could do. But the accident treatment, it's not a bad policy. It's actually good for any age. And again, it's just care and treatment of an accident. So if you have an accident, as opposed to like a stroke or heart attack, it's an indemnity policy as well. I do find it to be good for, say, younger folks because they're more likely to have an accident than, say, have a stroke. But for most of our client base and those who are probably watching tonight, that's a nice add-on if you want. But I would focus more strongly on your top priority should be hospital indemnity and cancer, stroke, heart attacks, and accidents should come probably after that. Whereas
Right.
the tables, Ryan, if it was you buying this, I might say, hey, look at accident first because there's a better chance at your age you're going to get into an accident than you're going to have a stroke. You know what I mean?
Right.
The realistic reality of it.
Okay.
He probably gets hurt getting out of bed in the morning, so it's probably
Possible too.
My guitar fingers are falling off at this point.
lighten it up a little bit.
All right. I don't see any questions from anyone who's watching. There are some people watching, so if you'd like to ask a question, literally about anything, whether it's Medicare, health insurance, you can go ahead and drop it in the Facebook or YouTube comment box. Also, if you want to be reminded about videos like this in the future, you can like the Facebook page, of course, and on YouTube, there's a subscribe button. So if you push that, you'll just be reminded when there's a live video, but you also see the replay. So we'll be saving these in replay form. So if you had to run off and make dinner or something, that's fine. You can watch the replay later. But you could ask a question and come back and we'll answer it and you can watch the replay later if you wanted to do that. All right. Well, I don't see any questions. We're almost at about half an hour. I don't know if you guys had anything else you wanted to add or now, Greg, I did have a quick question. You talked about the lock-in period for Medicare Advantage. When the Medicare enrollment period comes around, you're not allowed to change your Medicare Advantage period in the fall? Is that
No, you can. Lock-in is just from now until the end of the year. Because even when you change in the fall, it doesn't happen until January 1st.
Okay, right. Yep.
So
Gotcha.
Lock-in basically means whatever you've got now, you've got, unless you either A, have a special enrollment, like you moved or your plan dropped or something like that.
Right.
Or B, you get to October and you start to see all the new plans come out and you can take a look at that. But again, it wouldn't take effect till January 1st.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much covered it all for tonight. I like what we got out there. I think that folks that have questions about this should contact us. Please go online, give us a call. If you don't remember your agent's name, we'll find them for you. If you don't have an agent with us or you just want to hear more, then just give us a call. Like I said, it doesn't cost anything to talk. It only costs something if you decide to get the plan.
A couple things in closing. I'm still asked this question a lot about the COVID vaccine. As of right now and in the near future, it's still covered under original Medicare and also your Medicare Advantage plan. So there's no deductibles, co-payments, or anything regarding that. I know the current administration had just increased their payment for vaccines for like the first shot, $28 to $40 that they're paying providers to cover this. And I think they're looking at future cost of what the vaccines may cover and different things that might be going on that are unclear right now. But just to put your mind at ease, go get the vaccine, because it is covered under your Medicare or Medicare Advantage plan. The other thing is, as far as some BGA news, we hired a new agent on board, and I bring this up because, people always ask, like, well, are you ever hiring? I get that question once in a while. We're always hiring. It's always hard to find somebody, who can do what we do. It's not rocket science, like we always say. It's just a matter of having the entrepreneurial spirit and people who like to talk to other people. And so I always tell my clients, listen, if you have a granddaughter, a daughter, grandson, a son, nephew, niece, and you feel they're looking for a career change with something very lucrative, because we get paid very well to help people. And that's what I hope that, people realize that we're helping them. And, so we're always looking for people who want to get involved as far as being an insurance broker. We take you from A to Z, helping you get licensed, helping you get trained, and doing all the necessary things so you could run your own business. Because basically in this position, you are running your own business. You're just getting all the back end help from me and Greg and all the insurance and the top rated insurance carriers that we sell. So if you're out there and you know somebody who is looking for a career change and I mean career change, it's not a job, it's a career, please send them our way. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Awesome.
Great.
Cool. Yeah, and you can just visit the website. There's a contact form there. So if the person's interested, they can go to bgainsurance.net and just click the contact button, and you can just send a contact over with your name and resume, and we'll get it to Greg or Joe. All right, guys. Any final comments? I like the COVID update. It's a great idea. I don't know if there's any more COVID news or if it's just kind of get the vaccine if you can.
Not a lot of big news out there. I look and, but that's just something that came up. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I just say if you get the vaccine when your time comes, do it as fast as possible if you can. I mean, I know in New Jersey, I think they're a little better off than they're in PA with organization-wise, but, just stay in touch, keep doing what you need. If you have questions about it, check with your agent. I think most agents have been on top of it to know where to go find a link or whatever to get signed up for it. So I know I sent some emails out to folks, but just get it done. Let's get back to normal as soon as we can.
All right. Sounds good. All right. That wraps it up. We'll save the replay to this. We'll post it. It'll be on the YouTube channel and Facebook. So if you had to, walk away, you can always come back and watch it and give these guys a call if you need any help. So,
All right.
All right, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.